Good morning, and welcome to the worship service here this morning. A little empty, but all you campers out there, if you're watching online, welcome to the service. It's great to get together to worship, and it is also wonderful to worship the Lord when you're camping in the mountains. The setting is beautiful. If you haven't been there, go there. When I seen these boys come in here this morning, and I was thinking about the adult Sunday school lesson, I remember a windshield glass place van slogan, "God bless all little boys with slingshots." There you go. David, he had a slingshot, and if you want to hear about it, then come to Men's Sunday School. For devotional, in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 24 and 25, who has it by memory? Hebrews 10, 24 and 25. That's part of it. Yep. Hebrews 10:24. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. So, I don't know about you, but as believers, we are called to encourage. And for some strange reason, as believers also, we need encouragement. There is times we need encouragement. And so here we are to encourage each other. And you couldn't find a better place than an assembly to encourage each other. And I don't know, they say that things in this world are getting worse. But then you go back to Ecclesiastes, and it talks about that there is nothing new under the sun. So when God sent the rain and the flood, it must have been pretty bad, or else he wouldn't have done it. But we're guaranteed not to have another flood like that. We see the rainbow come up, and it is a sign that God will never do that again, a promise. But even so, there's a lot of turmoil and bad circumstances in the world today. And yeah, we need encouragement. We need to encourage people. And the song that we sang, the first one, Jesus Christ is all I need. And you know what? That's where it's at. With God, all things are possible. And it doesn't matter what we face in our lives. With God, it is possible. I was chatting with an atheist a couple years ago. He already passed on. A buddy from Winnipeg. And he said, I have no need for God. But he did indicate that he had a lot of stress in his life. He did indicate that, there was a lot of things, they just didn't go the way he'd like them to go. And I said, you know what, buddy? I said, you may say that you don't need God. But I said, let me tell you that with God, it makes it a lot easier. Whatever you're facing, I says, with God, it makes it a lot easier. Let's turn to Psalm chapter 34. With the Lord, we can face anything. I will extol the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. My soul will boast in the Lord. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. Glorify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. He delivered me from all my fears. What do you fear? Have you ever been out in the dark at night, all by yourself, and it was dead calm, and you heard a crackle behind you, and it sent a chill up your spine? Have you ever been there? Like, have you ever had a fear of anything? You know, and then the thoughts go through your mind, well, is it a cougar? Well, what is it? And it just, that chill just keeps getting colder. But with the Lord by our side, it says that those fears can be gone. Well, they still come once in a while. Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, that if anybody should have a happy countenance, a radiance about him, it should be the believer that has his trust in God. If you're a believer, please don't walk around with a frown on your face. Show it you love Jesus. This poor man called, and the Lord heard him. He saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. The angel, it's a little while ago I talked about angels. Do you believe in angels? I do. They're there to help us along. They're there to protect us. Taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Fear the Lord, you his saints. For those who fear him lack nothing. The lions may grow weak and hungry, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. Come, my children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Whoever of you loves life and desires to see many good days, keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking lies. If you want to have a good life, do not lie. Turn from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. Seek peace and pursue it. I don't know, as human beings, some of us, and myself, we seem to have a tendency, we have the ability to seek the bad in people. Loewen brothers sang the song years ago. There's a little good in everyone, though countless be our faults. So let's focus on the good and encourage. Goes a long way. Goes a long way. The eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. And I don't know if it was last Sunday or Sunday before, Dustin put the challenge out there to read the book of Job. I don't know if you've all been through it. I'm not through it yet, but I'm well on the way. But, oh my goodness. Job was a righteous man, and he cried out to God. And God heard him. I mean, compared to Job, we have not faced anything. Like, we have literally not faced anything compared to him. To have his family taken from him, to have everything, to be stripped of everything, and still have your faith and hope in God. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted. He saves those who are crushed in spirit. A righteous man may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones. Not one of them will be broken. Evil will slay the wicked, but the foes of the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems his servants. No one who takes refuge in him will be condemned. The Lord is good. Life is good with the Lord. You're dismissed for Sunday school.
Good morning. I love you, Lord Jesus. My body is yours for anything, Lord. Is it? Are you willing to give it all up? There's times when we actually have time to sit and think about those things. Because I think if you're like me, then most of the time you're a little on the selfish side. And you want to live for the things that you want to do, or the things you think you should be doing. And then you sing a line like that, my body is yours for anything, Lord. So yeah, it's sobering, I think, anyway. Are you willing to give it all up? You willing to lay it all down? It's heavy. It's heavy. That is the end of the sermon. We want to start at the beginning. So, I want to open up with a verse from, sorry, I have too many notes in here. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 11. If you want to turn there, and then we'll turn back over to John in a minute. But Isaiah 40, verse 11. Now, I'm sure all of you have read through Isaiah or studied Isaiah, and there are parts of Isaiah that are just mind-blowing, like amazing in depth and in just, I can't even put it into my own words. Like Isaiah was an amazing prophet, and he was foreshadowing, he foretold the coming events and what the Messiah would be like and who Jesus was, and it's just so wonderful. Just before verse 11, we get a little bit of a glimpse of the Messiah, of the one to come. And if you were a human back then, you could easily be persuaded that the Messiah would be here to rule, to be the king, to right all the wrongs. But then there's lots of glimpses of things that we see here, that the way Jesus was and the things that Jesus taught, that actually somewhat, you could say, went against what the people were thinking of the time. So verse 11 says, he shall feed his flock like a shepherd. He shall gather the lambs with his arm and carry them in his bosom, and shall gently lead those that are with the young. Now that to me is a tender, quiet, spirited, meek human being, not a glorious king that's going to rule and fight the Roman occupation and right all the wrongs and make Israel a great nation again. But in fact, it was a different kind of leadership. It was a meek leadership. So I just wanted to share that with you. That was it's kind of a foreshadowing of what John's talking about in John chapter 10 this morning. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Thank you, dear Lord, for just a wonderful opportunity to gather here and to read more about your word, Lord. And we thank you for the Apostle John and all that he did, and Lord, and all that we have here, that we can learn more about you and your way. And Lord, may our hearts and our mind be opened to your leading, to your word. And I just pray that you can use me as your vessel, Lord, to preach your word. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. So, John chapter 10, we're going to start right at the beginning. I am reading out of the King James this morning. Sorry. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber. But he that enters in by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter opens, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name and leads them out. And when he puts forth his own sheep, and he goes before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. This parable spoke Jesus unto them, but they understood not what the things they were which he spoke unto them. Then said Jesus unto them again, Verily, verily, I say unto you, I am the door of the sheep. All that ever came before me are thieves and robbers, but the sheep did not hear him. I am the door. By me, if any man enter in, he shall be saved, and shall go in and out and find pasture. The thief comes not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they might have life, and that they might have it more abundantly. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd gives his life for the sheep. But he that is a hireling, and not the shepherd, whose own sheep are not, sees the wolf coming, and leaves the sheep, and he flees. And the wolf catches them, and scattereth the sheep. The hireling flees, because he is a hireling, and cares not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and am known of mine. As the Father knows me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. And the other sheep I have, which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear, and they shall hear my voice. And there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Therefore does my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man takes it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. This commandment have I received from my Father. There was a division, therefore, among the Jews because of these sayings, and many of them said, He has a devil, and is mad. Why hear him? Others said, These are not the words of him that has a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind? So, here we have pretty much all the verses except for the last few there. Jesus speaking. If your Bible is a red letter, then most of that is red. And to me, there's so much power in the red letters. My Bible doesn't have the red, but there's so much power in because it's Jesus. It's Jesus speaking. It's not someone interpreting or trying to remember what Jesus said. Jesus said it. So we can have so much confidence in the words that are here, because it came straight from Jesus. So prior to this, I believe Dustin preached on a little bit, was the story, I should say, of the man that was born blind and he was made to see again, the miracle that Jesus did. And that's why at the end we see the correlation of the people asking, can a devil open the eyes of the blind? So this was fresh in everyone's mind of the miracle that Jesus had performed. And then we have Jesus here speaking to the people in very authoritative language. Now, I want you to imagine, as I was studying this, what it would be like. See, how can I say that? It's easy for us to just read this, and because we have generations and generations before us, and we grew up in this, and so it's the Bible. We can trust it. But imagine being there, and this guy who's a prophet, or so they say, is speaking to you in such authoritative language that actually doesn't really make a lot of sense. What would you think? What if I just We were all gathered together, and I stood up and said, I am the chief cattle herder, and my cattle do what I say. You'd probably think I'd lost my mind a little bit. So you can see where there's some division here, and you can see where the question mark is above their head and wondering what this person, Jesus, is talking about. Now, I like to think that it's all part of the plan. It's all made that way, because when something like that happens, you stop and you actually pay attention and you think about what's being said. So, verses 1 through 5. Verily, verily, I say unto you, that he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbs up in another way, he is a thief and a robber. But he that entereth by the door is the shepherd of the sheep. And to him the porter opens. I think another version says the gatekeeper. And the sheep hear his voice, and he calls his own sheep, and he leads them out. For when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him. For they know his voice, and the stranger they will not follow. So I'm not sure if you've ever studied what he's saying here as an example. How many of you have owned sheep? How many of you have herded sheep? Oh yeah, there's some good stories over there. Those are really good herding sheep stories. Anybody else got sheep experience? A little bit? Okay, yeah. So, I've got a little bit too. When I was a kid, my grandpa had sheep. Anyway, so what the shepherd would do is, this was their livelihood, so they took care of the sheep. And there were many different flocks all over the place. Every family had sheep, and it was all over the countryside. There wasn't property lines and fences to keep everyone's sheep separate. Like, they just worked together, and so-and-so had this pasture, and so-and-so had this grass, or so-and-so was over there today. But these places, like the fold, these were public property, if you will. They were used by all different shepherds and all different owners of sheep. And sometimes there would be more than one flock in the fold. And that's why it's interesting to say here, when the shepherd would bring the sheep in, there might already be sheep in there. And so when the next day, maybe after the storm or after the reason why they were there, they would call them out. And their sheep knew which shepherd by voice, and the sheep would follow him out. Another interesting point is the gate. So at our farm, we have gates, and we close the gate so that the cows don't get out. Well, if you've ever studied what these folds look like, there is no gate. There's just an opening at one end of the fold, and the shepherd was the gate. So the shepherd, he stayed there to keep watch on what came in, what came out. If this was a bigger fold, like there was many flocks there, they would sometimes have a gatekeeper. And so there was some structure there, I'm assuming. And the gatekeeper would let the sheep in or out based on whose sheep they were and what the shepherd was doing at that time. So one of the really cool things about this is that everyone understood what Jesus was saying. Everyone in Israel knew sheep. It was the most important animal in their life. It was used for food, it was used for sacrifice, it was used for clothing, textiles, like everything in their life. Sheep was a very important animal. And so everyone understood what Jesus was talking about. The thief and the robber. It's interesting that he uses two different words here, because in our English language, the thief and the robber is the same thing. A thief is a robber is a thief. But in the Greek language, a thief is someone who steals or takes advantage of. And a robber is someone who steals, but they steal by force or they steal by violence. So there's two different terms there. And we'll get into that in a second on the next point. So a modern term, obviously we know that the example of sheep is used throughout the entire Bible, and we all know why, because sheep they have a tendency to not be real intelligent. They tend to just follow each other around, and I came across a few stories or one story in particular of a bunch of sheep just jumping off a cliff to their death. That's how sheep are. They follow. And so Jesus uses that as an example because we as human beings are typically the same way. Now, if you look at that on a very small period of time, it might not look that way. Like, we don't all dress the same today. We don't all do the exact same things today. But if you look at a longer period of time, you can see trends and how we are similar to sheep. We have the herd mentality. We do as others do. Sheeple. I've heard the term used. We are sheeple. Sometimes that's more of in a negative connotation. But we are following something, whether it's consciously or not, whether it's good or bad. And what are you following? Are you following the good, or are you following the bad? Now, again, I want you to think about that for a second. Yes, I go to church. Yes, I'm following Jesus. Yes. But what are you really following? It's kind of like the lyric that we sang. Are you really laying down everything? Who are you really following? Because it's deceptive. It's deceptive that we might be following the wrong shepherd. We might be following a false shepherd, and we don't even realize it. But that's what Jesus is talking about here. He says, I am the true shepherd. I am the one. This is one of 5, I'm getting a little off topic here. It's one of 5 parts of the New Testament that Jesus says, I am. He says that I am, basically he's saying, I am God. He is stating his divinity in the verse, I am the shepherd, which we'll get to in a second. But I just want to kind of lay that down, how important this is. This is someone standing before the religious leaders of the time, the people that were in authority, the people that were ruling over the other people, and he's standing up and saying, I am God, and therefore you should hear what I have to say. That's pretty profound. There's a story of, just recently, in the last couple of years, of a lost man from Turkey, and he was out partying and drinking, and he got lost in the forest on his way home. And he didn't come home the next day, and so they sent out a search party for him. There were many men from the village. This is a true story. They went out looking for him, and the authorities, and there were people scouring the woods, calling his name, looking for this guy. Well, this man looked around, and he realized that someone was lost, and he joined the search party to help find whoever this lost person was. And about a few hours into it, he realized that they were calling his name. And then they realized that it was him. And he's like, wait a second, I'm here. I'm not lost. And anyway, so the news article is this man was searching for himself. He was lost and he didn't even realize it. It's a true story. Anyway, I found it really interesting. How many times are we lost? Like spiritually, we think we know where we are, but we're lost. And there's others maybe trying to search for us. And then we join in and, Jake, where are you? And there's another guy here named Jake, I guess. Maybe it's someone's kid named Jake and I'm helping him. You know, it's all noble, but I'm actually the one that they're looking for. It's just an interesting story. There's a few, well, it's actually twice in here, and I'm going to try and get through it quickly. Jesus repeats himself 2 different times. He says kind of this first part of it, and then he says again, he reaffirms what he just said, just in a little bit different words. Sometimes I get accused of repeating myself too, but then I always say Jesus had to repeat himself too, and he was God, so I think I can do it. Anyway, so verses 7 to 11, he says the same thing. He said, I am the door. By me, if any man entereth, he shall be saved, and he shall go in and out and find pasture. Those are important words, because if you want life, if you want something in this world, which you're all searching for, Jesus is the answer. It doesn't mean you just come into the fold and you're stuck there forever. No, you come in and out. You are under the care of Jesus. Jesus says in verse 10, the thief cometh not, but for to steal and to kill and to destroy, and I am come that he might have life, and that they might find it more abundantly. Well, we all have life, like you're all alive, we're all breathing. What is he talking about? Jesus offers us life. What does that mean? Because it's easy to say, well, I'm alive, I have a good job, I got a family, and on and on. But what does it mean to have life? Jesus came so that you might have life. I think that you have to understand what the kingdom really is. It's Jesus kind of versus the world. The intent of Satan is to destroy those in the world. So when you find Jesus and you practice his ways, you find what the meaning of life is, the true life that Jesus offers. And what does that even mean? Well, let me give you a little bit of an example. In Sunday school, Gerald had mentioned, why does everyone hate the Jews? Why is there so much anti-Semitism in the world today? There always has been, but why so much today? Or why does it even exist? I really wanted to have a comment when they were doing that, but I was studying a little bit here. I think it's because people hate good. People, not everyone, the people who are practicing this, they hate righteousness. They hate good. They hate goodness. And they don't know where to turn. So rather than understand the difference, they hate it. You can't, there's 2 different things in this world. There's good and there's evil. And we have to bring ourselves to a little bit deeper level than just the surface. There's good and there's evil. Which one are you following? Which one is your life? Life has positive consequences, the life that Jesus offers. There's contentment. All of your needs are met. You find joy. We all are trying to understand what this life is. And sometimes we get it kind of mixed up a little bit. Sometimes we get it skewed, if you will. What's your view of success? I was just talking about that with somebody the other day. What is success? Do you have to have money? Do you have to have the right job? You got some children that are at church? Drive a nice pickup? What's success? What about the poor person who's living on the street? We were just talking about that yesterday too. There are days I don't mind. I think I'd just be happy living on the street. It'd be okay. That's success too, maybe. What is your definition of success, and does it line up with what Jesus is offering here? The hireling fleeth because he is a hireling, and careth not for the sheep. I am the good shepherd, and know my sheep, and they know me. Jesus uses this example to kind of communicate to us a level of commitment. The person that owns the sheep, the shepherd, his level of commitment is he's willing to lay his life down for the sheep. But the person who's hired, is he willing to lay down the same investment? Now, we all know different situations and different examples of what that looks like. I often use the term, well, do you have some skin in the game? Because if you don't have any skin in the game, your tendency to be invested doesn't really exist. But when you do have some skin in the game, your level of investment is much deeper. To the point where, if it's your livelihood or what you're actually doing to support everything that you are standing for, then your level of investment is huge, and you're willing to, like Jesus said, actually lay your life down for the sheep or the fold or the flock, if you will. And he was criticizing the current religious leaders of the time. They were false teachers. They did not have the same investment that Jesus was speaking of. You've all seen those memes that, like the painted highway line that goes over the dead animal, and then it's like, not my job. That's exactly what we're talking about. There's no level, there's no commitment, there's no investment. They don't care. What is your level of commitment this morning? Sure, we all have jobs. So is it just a job, or do you actually take ownership in your job? Do you treat it as if it's yours? Are you being a good steward with what God has given you? What about church? What's your level of commitment to the church? Not particularly this church, but the greater church, the church that Jesus has built. What is your level of commitment? Are you committed? Are you serving? Are you willing to lay down your life for your brother? What happens when persecution comes? Are you willing then? Or are you just a bench warmer? What about family? How committed are you to your family? Do you have a sacrificial investment? Are you willing to lay down your life? Are you willing to give up your goals and dreams? Are you willing to give up your success for your family? Or are you just practicing selfishness? What I want to do is more important. These are my goals and my dreams, and I want to practice them. They're mine. I have the right to do it. We live in America. Well, kind of. Canada. Those are deep questions, and that's what Jesus is talking about here. It's not just this surface, this very shallow, well, you need to do this, and Jesus said that. No, it's serious. Because there's consequences for our decisions and our choices. Someone said in men's Sunday school, he gave us the choice to choose. I think Uncle John said it. We have the choice. No, we have the ability to make a choice. And what are you choosing? Are you choosing to follow Jesus? And at what level of commitment are you actually doing it? Verse 16, and other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. That's an interesting verse that we sometimes miss. We're not the only sheep in this world. This isn't the only fold. Think about that. Now we can get into a whole bunch of bunny trails there, but I didn't say it, Jesus said it. There are other sheep. And there are other folds. But it says at the end that there will be one fold and one shepherd. Verses 17 and 18. Therefore does my Father love me, because I laid down my life, and that I might take it again. And no man takes it from me, that I lay it down of myself, because I have the power to do that. And I have the power to take it again. And this commandment I have received from my Father. It's interesting. Jesus is foreshadowing his death and resurrection here. Again, imagine being there in the audience and listening to this guy. You would wonder if all the crayons are in the box. You would. I mean, we're human beings. Like, of course you're going to question what you hear. Is he, it's written here, is he going to kill himself in a different place? Like, what's he talking about? But he was foreshadowing his death and his resurrection. But the point, I think, that he's trying to make, and why he said it here, is that he's doing it for the sake of others. He's doing it voluntarily. He didn't say, God is forcing me to do this, therefore I have to hang on the cross so that you might be saved. He does it voluntarily. He lays down his life so that we can be saved. You and I and the rest of the flock. Verses 19 to 21. And many of them, so now we're back to the narrative. And many of them said, he has a devil and is mad, so why should we hear him? Others said, these are not the words of a madman or a devil, or someone that has a devil. Can a devil open the eyes of the blind? Why must there be division? Have you ever thought of that? We know what division is. There's division in churches. We talk about it. We hear about it all the time. Why must there be division? Because there is. There was division here. I assume there was a crowd of people. They all believed in the same God, and they all did the same things, and they all practiced the same communal ways. But it says right here there was division. Why does there have to be division? Well, for one, because Jesus said, I came to cause division. Isn't that interesting? But is division good or bad? I say it's neither. It's inevitable. It's almost necessary. Because without it, how can you find out what is the truth? If you don't question what someone's saying or something you hear or you see, how can you come to the realization that that's the truth? If you don't debate something, how do you know who's right and who's wrong? Why does there have to be such opposites? Why, if there's hot water, why does there have to be cold water? Why can't we just have warm water? Everyone would be happy then. Calvin would get used to taking a warm shower. Why must there be hot and cold? Why must there be good and evil? Why can't there just be a happy, warm medium? Why must there be extremes? Have you ever thought about it? Why must there be black and white? Why is there introverted people and extroverted people? Everywhere you look in the world, there's opposites. And within that opposite, there's division. But the key to understanding division is your own opinion, is your own perspective and what you're actually doing with it. That is what creates the division. Do we need division in religion to understand it deeply? No. All you need to do is listen to what Jesus says. Boy, that's an easy answer. But it says, he who lays down his life will find it. That's another hard one. Why did God allow Adam and Eve to sin? So, we can go through all this all day long. In fact, I would love it nothing more, because I love it. But let's just go right to the beginning. Why did God allow Eve and Adam to sin? Why couldn't he have just created the world to be a happy medium? There's a ditch here, there's a ditch here, there's a road right down the middle. Why can't we just be on the road? He could have done it. He could have created humans to obey, not disobey. He could have created them to do as they were told. He could have created them to be perfect. Why didn't he do that? I'll give you my answer, and then we'll close. It's to create redemption. Without redemption, you wouldn't love God. Without forgiveness and mercy, you wouldn't love God the way you do today. Think about it. The plan of redemption is so big that we can't even get our head wrapped around. It's been in place since the beginning to right now, this second. I'm sure there's someone in this world right now giving their life to Christ because of the plan that God made 10,000 years ago, whenever it was. Isn't that magnificent? There had to be opposites. There had to be division. There had to be a resistance for the glory of God to exist. Or else glory wouldn't even be a word. Now I'm getting a little couple question marks above the head, but it needs more time. It needs more discussion to fully understand what that idea is, but it's so big and wonderful. It's amazing. Redemption. You get to go see Jesus someday because you've given your life to him. Not just because you're a sheeple and you're doing what everyone else does, but because you're listening to the words that Jesus taught. The only way you're going to get into the fold is through Jesus, who's the gatekeeper. I will leave you with that thought this morning. Thank you for your time.